Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unstuck movement. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. I am your host, Rob Z. Today we have the powerful, incredible Austin Page with us. Austin, I love to dive into these episodes with a question right off the bat. You went through an incredible near-death experience in your life that dramatically changed you. So the question that I want to start with was, how do you define success in your life differently in your bonus round of life, getting a second chance?
For me, and I'm sure success for everybody is definitely going to look different, but personally for me, it's contentment, inner content. Like, are you able to develop yourself through character building habits one day at a time, because it's earned daily, contentment, self-love, self-worth. And for me, ending the day content with where I'm at, the state of being that I am and how I show up, that's success to me. I mean, of course, there's financial success, relationship success, whatever, but overall, that's where I'm at.
I think that's something that we all search for in our life is contentment. And most of us throughout our days don't seem to find it. And we wonder what's wrong, right? So being able to actively pursue that is something that we all could benefit from. And I can't wait to hear more about this story from you. This is the Unstuck movement. These stories are to give you great examples, true real life examples that breakthrough is possible for you in your life. We are sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com, an amazing organization of over 400 heart-centered entrepreneurs from all over the world who help each other grow. Now, Austin is a coach, a mentor, and a leader who has spent over a decade pushing clients to achieve their 2.0 versions of themselves. After nearly losing his life, he's living his bonus round and helping others do the same. Who were you before? How long ago did this accident take place, and who were you before the accident?
So leading up to this life-changing event that happened, I didn't know who I was, actually. I was always following the crowd, chasing the mob, the average. And the average of when I was growing up, late high school, early college, was the party crowd. And I come from a smaller town, and a very, very small town. Actually, my graduating class only had like 89, 90 people in it. And there wasn't much to do, which isn't a great excuse for me to get into all this trouble that I did when I was younger. But Thursday through Sunday, I was looking for the party and trying to fit in and just losing happiness in the same place I was looking for it, technically, trying to just be the guy. And it always ended up leading me to nowhere fast, in trouble, locked up, and obviously nearly losing my life with a car wreck that was 100% my fault due to drunk driving. And that wreck happened in 2010. And I don't really remember the night. I'm very fortunate to not remember the night too much. I was blacked out. But I went to this party that I do remember showing up to, but I don't remember getting in the car. And like a typical story, made it about a mile away from the house to where I ran off the road. Fortunately, didn't hurt anybody. Nobody else was on the road. I just ran off the road and flipped a couple times. And somebody heard, I guess a few houses down, came and pulled me out, called 911. And I was sent to the local hospital, where I stayed there in the ICU for about 5 weeks. And there's pictures that we were mentioning earlier of me having my abdomen wide open, trying to clear out infection from ruptured intestines that had happened during that wreck. And I also broke both my legs from the knees down. And so I woke up in the hospital, almost Twilight Zone, not thinking it was a dream or something, because I don't remember the wreck. And doctors and nurses were like, yeah, you've been involved in a wreck, blah, blah, blah. And I look down, I see this gaping hole in my stomach, and my legs are in straight casts. And I still thought it was a dream. It was so fuzzy and Twilight Zone type of deal. And then a couple of days later, I finally came to and realized that it was real. And I had a unsure journey ahead of me of like, what was going to happen? Would I recover? What was going to be my life after this? And would I pull through? Because for moments in time throughout that hospital stay, they had the chaplain come in because my white blood cell was through the roof from infection, and they couldn't get it under control. And but things finally broke and started to go towards the right direction. And then from there, I moved to a rehab center, or they moved me to a rehab center. It's where I lived for 2 months there, and learning how to walk and do all the simple things that we take for granted, getting yourself out of bed, putting yourself on the toilet, those things I had to have help with, and because I was bedbound for most of the time. But the flip of the switch that sort of I'm going to get into right quick and try and break down quickly is what started to develop my mindset, habits, and sort of that inner contentment that I mentioned earlier is every morning the physical therapist would come to my room and they'd say, "Hey, it's time to go hit the gym. Get your ass out of bed. Get yourself over into the wheelchair." And I still wasn't able to use my legs at the time. I wasn't weight bearing yet. So they'd make me hobble over to the wheelchair and roll down to the gym that was in this rehab center. And they would lock my wheelchair in place and give me some weights to do some curls, some overhead presses, some dips in the parallel bars outside of my wheelchair. And every morning, that's what they got me to do, whether I wanted to or not. Somebody was there saying, "Hey, hop up out the chair, let's go." Without them, I don't think I would have. I know I wouldn't have because I didn't. Most days, I didn't. You don't feel like doing that shit when you whittled away to nothing. You barely have any strength. You don't really like yourself because you put yourself in that situation. Mm-hmm. But over those 2 months, it developed a habit. It was a daily process, a daily routine of going down there and feeling better than the day before because I was gaining strength, confidence in myself, building myself instead of chasing these things that weren't really, they were more so sabotaging me at first before the wreck. Now I'm actually going through the days, avoiding those things because of course I couldn't have them at the time. So it was fortunate to keep me away from those things, but also focusing on things that were building me. So that's when the change in tides started to happen for myself. And it wasn't overnight. I still messed up and got arrested after this thing. After almost losing my life, I still found my way into those bad habits. But I had to touch the hot stove 3 times, not losing my life, but getting in trouble to finally be like, all right, enough's enough. It's time for a change.
Yeah, man, isn't it interesting? Because when you hear of somebody going through a transformation, sometimes they'll breeze over the fact that even after they had the great awakening that they needed to have, they still slipped up. They still did things that they shouldn't have been doing, and they knew they shouldn't have been doing. It's fascinating as humans how we can like go through something for myself too, like going through things that like is just a clear wake up call, and you still find yourself doing the same crap.
It's funny, man. And I don't want to say it's a typical stereotypical guy thing or dude thing just to be stubborn, hard headed, but I definitely always seem to have to learn the hard way. And I'm sure like most guys can relate especially when you're a little younger. I was in my early 20s. I thought I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof most days. And that's what got me into that situation. Nothing bad would ever happen to me. I wouldn't hurt myself, right? Like you tell yourself that and things can get real quick.
Mm-hmm. They sure can. You said something earlier that I thought was really good. You said you were losing happiness in the same place where you were looking for it.
Yep.
That's a really good line, right? Because when you don't know what you don't know, you only look at things that you've already learned, right? So you look to the things you think are going to work to fulfill you, and those are actually the things that are tearing you apart. Speak to that a little bit. Like, what does that mean to you, losing that happiness in the same place that you were looking for it?
It can be more than just drinking or partying or drugs or whatever. It can be just that food you shouldn't be eating that isn't serving you. It's what's, it's hard to think long term because most of us nowadays, especially, it's short term emotion. What makes me feel good now? That drink probably does, or that nightcap normally does, or taking the edge off with that, smoking a little bit, or taking, whatever, or that meal, that crappy shit food that you're about to eat because you keep going back to it because it feels good in the moment, but you forget that delay of regret that usually hits you or that dissatisfaction with yourself. And it's almost a negative feedback cycle because once you do it, you feel even more like crap. So you tend to chase it again because it gives you that next little kick or dopamine fix or whatever release that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And you're looking for happiness in it. And you're just like attempting it. It's pulling you further and further back. And you just don't realize it because it doesn't always happen immediately. Sometimes it takes compounding time for it to build up and realize, damn, I've taken so many steps backwards, or I'm now like truly in a deep, dark place. And I don't know how to get out of it. And sometimes I don't know. That's how I see it.
So after you had the accident, you came back, you recovered, and then you screwed up again. Was there something else that finally pushed you over the edge of like, come on, man, I got to really get it together? What happened?
I I'll share the story. It's funny, but it's not funny. But looking back now, it can be funny. But at the moment, it's still just so dumb. I lived in this small neighborhood that was almost like a golf cart type neighborhood, a very heavy golf cart. So when you buy a house there, you live there, you have a golf cart. You got it, just because everybody uses them in this neighborhood. And I ended up taking my golf cart and riding through the neighborhood early in the morning, probably 1 or 2 in the morning, drunk again, after almost losing my life from drinking and driving. Hopped in a golf cart and ended up running into this guy's house, like into the side of it. And I don't remember this, so it's almost a similar story. Ran into the side of the guy's house, and the story was told to me by the guy that was living in the house. Ran into his house with the golf cart, got off the golf cart, and then went and for some reason was trying to, like, I don't know whether I was lost or just an idiot, but I was fumbling through his car that was right next to the golf cart, and he came out and he called the cops because he's like, somebody's trying to break into my car. And fortunately, the guy he's a family friend, a distant family friend, so he kind of recognized me, kind of didn't. He said, but he called the cops, and the cops came and obviously arrested me for trespassing and whatnot and being drunk in public. And I came to in the back of the cop car a little bit. I was like, where the hell am I at? Like, I almost feel like a Twilight thing again. I was starting to like sober up a little bit. And they were like, hey, you were just trying to get into this guy's car. You ran your golf cart into his house. And fortunately, the older gentleman that sort of recognized me was like, hey, I know his grandfather. I don't want anything bad to happen, but I do want him to go home and, I have to speak to his family the next day. And I'm very fortunate that gentleman sort of felt for me. And I deserved to probably get locked up after that. But I was able to go home, and sort of that next day I had a long talk with my stepfather at the time. And I'm sure just had my thoughts in general. I was like, all right, that was it. That's like, I was going right back down the same path that I didn't want to be on, and would have gotten me back to where I was, losing my life.
Yeah. So what changed from that day, right? So you came out of the rehab, and you had been going to the gym. They were making you go on a daily basis.
Yep.
Did that habit stick straight out of rehab? Is that something that stuck with you?
Yes, but not super serious. I was still working out, and I'm glad you asked that, because what I sort of skipped over was that habit of going to the gym every single day outside. Once I was released from the rehab center, I realized I needed to get a job, and a different pace of job than me doing these odds and ends, contracting on the side, sheetrocking, irrigation. I was just helping out, being like a helper pretty much, and no path, no purpose, no direction really. I was just whatever, as long as I can make some money to buy some beer and party, I'm good. So the first job out of the rehab center was, all right, I want to go get a job at the local gym, because that comes with a free membership, and it's a great habit that I loved. I loved the way it made me feel, building myself up, building strength, confidence in myself, and giving me something to like focus on almost daily. I wasn't going daily at the time though, but a couple days a week, even while still partying and getting in trouble again. And what sort of flipped the switch is realizing that my happiness, my true happiness, the thing that really brought me content, which was my fitness, my health, my mindset when working out and like pushing myself through these workouts, was getting bogged down on the weekends by my drinking, taking steps backwards. So I was taking 2 to 3 steps forward during the week, but taking 2 to 3 steps backwards on the weekends type of deal. So I noticed that I was like, I felt some pull, and it didn't still happen like a flick of a switch, but slowly over time, the sliding scale or the weight shifted to where I was pulling back from those going out. If I did go out, I was like, all right, I didn't go stone cold sober at the time, but I started to pull back my drinking. And fortunately, I guess it's not, I'm sure some people are like, call it bullshit, but I was able to pull my drinking back to where I could go out and have a couple beers and be like, all right, I want to feel good for tomorrow. Yeah. I want to feel good in the gym tomorrow. Let me not get belligerent tonight. And then slowly but surely, I've dialed it back a ton. When I say a ton, not to say I'm straight edge or sober now, but I still have a glass of wine or a beer with my wife here or there, but it's a totally different person.
It's interesting. I think this is a huge thing for people too, because same deal with me. I used to party a lot, and I was smoking cigarettes, right? So you just like living the super unhealthy lifestyle. And so at that point in time, I started also loving cycling. I loved bike riding.
Yeah.
And so I'd be like, I'd be one of those dudes you'd see riding a bike, smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, and I remember seeing those guys and being like, who does that? Why would you do that? And I was that guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't live those two different lifestyles and feel congruent and feel okay. It's like a
Yeah.
constant battle with yourself of like, oh, so I'm either going to be the party dude or I'm going to be the guy who exercises and takes care of myself. I can't be both of these people. Like you said, not straight edge, right? I might still have a beer every once in a while or whatever, but like to be on those two different ends of the spectrum don't work. And so what's really great about fitness is that it directs you. Like if this feels really good and it's really good for me, the partying might feel really good at the time. Sometimes you feel like crap even doing it, but I know I'm going to feel horrible later on. And like you need that other thing in your life to show you the options of the directions that you can go and what's beneficial.
Dude, 100%, man. And over time, I didn't realize that I was sort of using this as a tool that I'm about to explain. Back then, I wasn't thinking of it this way, but now looking back, I was using regret as a guide pretty much. When I felt that sense of regret after that night out or that partying or that drinking, whatever, I used it as like touching the hot stove analogy. It's like, all right, I should be that sense or feeling of regret should be my guide to not do it or stay away from it. Because every time let's think of like a video game character. If you want to build up, let's say there's a happiness or a contentment level, there's a confidence level, there's a mental toughness level, and there's points to that level. You know, there's a 20%, 60%, 100%, blah, blah, blah. And to build those points within those levels, you have to perform the act to get to that point. So following through with some type of alignment with your health, your fitness, that's probably going to add points to your confidence, your contentment, feeling good about yourself. And every time you pull away from those points with going out, partying, eating things that truly aren't aligned with that long-term goal, or at least the way the person you want to be, the who, you're deducting points from that, whether you realize it or not. And most of the time we don't, because one bad meal isn't going to make you truly feel horrible or really make the needle move on the scale or make you have a belly. But it's the compounding effect of leaving that door open or leaving it cracked over time that builds up. It's like one penny isn't a ton of weight, but when you add a penny to the scale every single day, at the end of 30 days, that scale is going to be heavy because you got 30 pennies on it now.
Yeah, very true. It adds up slowly over time, and if you're not being aware of it, man, it can take over really fast. And I think a lot of these habits also are built in when we're young and we're not really paying attention to this stuff. We're just trying to find like some sort of coping mechanism to make us feel better for whatever the thing might be, right? So that's a great lesson to learn, and paying attention. The penny is a great analogy too, right? One penny is nothing, but a bag full of pennies, man, that's really going to weigh you down. So we got to jump into the sponsor for the show real quick for 60 seconds. When we come back, though, I want to understand, switching into kind of like how you work with people, you know, what daily habits are essential to building the mental toughness that you built for yourself and that you help clients build as well. We'll talk about that in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
All right. So Austin, loving this conversation, man. These daily habits that are so important for us in our life. What are some of those habits that are essential for building that mental toughness that you built for yourself and that you build for people you work with?
So there's a daily process that I follow, and I try and get most of or pretty much all my clients to follow when they join with me and start to try and develop themselves, their mindset, their physical being. And it's controlling the things that they can control. And there's a lot of things we can't control. And we just have to list out those things that are going to be habit building or character building, or at least building ourselves up. Because the initial phase, you know, our body's the only thing that we can truly control, right? Like, we can't control the weather, we can't control taxes, we can't control a lot of things. But the moment we can take control of this, it will start to build our mind. So build the body, build the mind. And those things that we can control are what we eat or allow into our body, who we hang around, the things we listen to or the people we listen to, and what we do with our body. So movement, activity, training, exercising, those are some things that we can control. And we can also kind of control. And when I say kind of, it's a lot of people will fight back at first saying, oh, I don't have time now. But we know for the most part what our schedule is going to be like Monday through Friday, or for most days, right? So let's backwards plan our days, our schedules, and let's make the time. So if you have a 9 to 5, let's wake up a little bit earlier and knock it out beforehand, or invest that lunch break, like many people do, into our goals, or do it after work or after the kids go to sleep, making sure you get it done, because at the end of the day, we either do or we don't. And if that's like the factor that we need to do is backwards plan our day, then that's kind of what needs to be done.
Yeah, I love that, man. And one of the things that I always say it like this, like, you're in control of your 5-foot world. So the things that you are directly in contact with, you have the ability to control those things. Not saying you want to like force people and control them who are like near you. Like, you don't need to like force people into doing what you want to do, but you're in control of like what you choose to do with yourself on a daily basis. And one of the biggest parts of that is exercising and moving your body. Especially me, like somebody, I'm a coach. I usually work over Zoom. I'm usually online most of the day. So I'm sitting, and all of that sitting, you're not moving. So that energy has to go somewhere. So one of the things I do, and I'm not a fitness trainer, but what I'll tell people to do is, if they're feeling like they can't get a workout in, it's like, dude, I'll work out for 5 minutes, like 4 or 5 times a day. If I can't like go do a full workout, I'll just do, you know, push-ups and do some squats, do some pull-ups, whatever it might be. I can do them in the span of 5 minutes. I can get a lot of stuff done. And if I do that multiple times throughout the day, then I've got a decent workout that doesn't really require much space, much time, or much effort on my part. But you got to put that little bit of effort in of actually doing the freaking thing.
Yeah, I love that, man. And there's an equation or like a little formula to, you know, like you were mentioning, fitting it in where you can. There's, to get results, momentum, traction with yourself, your life, the body you want, it's going to take time. So realizing you need some patience and giving that seed to grow, plant and grow. It's going to take intent. So we have to be intentful about our time, our actions, our decisions, and it's going to take action. So not only we have to think about it, be intentful with it, but we got to actually take action now. We actually got to do it. And the action doesn't have to be perfect, like you're saying. It doesn't have to be some long, strenuous, beating your body down workout. It can be that little gap that you have of where you're knocking out 20 push-ups or 50 push-ups or some burpees or whatever, elevating your energy, your frequency, you know, to elevate some energy for your day, you know, getting your blood moving, your heart pumping. It's what really moves the needles for most people is going to be imperfect action. Because if you're trying to be perfect, it's going to be overthought, overcomplicated, paralysis by analysis, and just any action at all is going to move the needle more than none, right? Some is better than none.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think of like looking at that picture. If anybody hasn't seen this picture of you, go to the website, go to gymflowcoaching.com and see that picture of you with your stomach open. You said your stomach was open for a few days because they had to like keep it open to get all the sepsis out of you. Boy, the little bit that you could do at those points in time was probably a very small amount. Like coming out of that surgery, you were not doing very much, but you were doing a little bit that started that path of moving you forward. And I think we have to think that way of like it's just the little things throughout life. And there's a great book called The Slight Edge. The Slight Edge it's a very simple concept, is what you're saying, man. It's just simple daily disciplines. They don't have to be perfect, but you've got to do them. They're easy to do. They're also easy not to do. And that's where the struggle, that free will, that choice we have.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's a compounding effort. And like, to give an example, face value today, it's like a lot of my clients, they make little funny jabs at me. They'll say, "Oh, Austin's Mr. Perfect," but it's taken 10 plus years of compounding discipline, compounding losses, compounding failure and wins to get me to where I'm at today. And I'm hoping I'm just getting started. You know, I mentioned this with another person the other day. I'm people that are looking at me or watching me, whether it's on social media or through the show today, they might say, "Man, he's got it all figured out." But no, I'm on maybe my level 10. Not to say 10's the top. I'm hoping there's a level 100, but I'm on my level 10, and maybe some people are starting off at level 1 or level 3 or wherever. There's levels to it, and it's going to take different intent, different actions, different efforts, and time to get to there. And to give the perspective, is my first weight that I was curling in the rehab center in my wheelchair was Gatorade bottles. That's what they had me curling, and that was killer, like whooping my ass. Gatorade bottles, little ones, the little 16 ounces. I was curling those, man. It's laughable now, but like that's where I started.
That's awesome. That's a great visual to see how far you can come by putting the effort in. I love that. This concept of not breaking character. So what does not breaking character look like for you in your toughest moments? What does that mean?
Following through on the things I say I'm going to do for the day. And I'm not perfect. Again, it's imperfect action, but you know, I have a set list of things or a standard. Let's say it's a brand book or a guidebook that I have, you know, and a certain standard of living, some might say, you know. So it's like, let's think of the analogy I've heard is like Harley Davidson, big brand. Everybody knows Harley Davidson, right? The motorcycle brand. When you walk into their shop, you know exactly what you're going to expect. You know what they're going to look like, what the color schemes are. You know what they stand for, what they don't stand for. Probably the vibe that's going to be there, the type of people that shop there. There's a brand guide, a brand book for them, or you could use Tesla or something like that. That's more prevalent now. But having a brand book for yourself and maybe writing down literally like, hey, these are the things that I would like or to add to my character or my lifestyle or that's going to improve my life, right? Move me forward. And these are some things that I really think that are holding me back probably, or these are some characteristics that I dislike that I keep going back to and getting that sense of regret, right? And having a guidebook, a brand book to follow. And as long as I can try and stick within that or get aligned with it through character building habits throughout my days, I'm able to not break character as much as possible. And that's the goal. It's not perfect. Most days I don't win, but we strive, you know, what's the old saying? Aim for the stars, land on the moon type of deal.
Yeah. And I think the big part of that, I love that, by the way, having a brand book for yourself. I've never heard that put that way, but coming from a marketing background, that is exactly what we need is a brand book for ourselves. Cause that brand book is integrity, right?
Yes.
That's our integrity. Yes. And so
most
people wonder why, like, they wonder, like, why do I, you know, I literally just had a conversation with a friend of mine who really is down on himself and really having a hard time because of the things that he's been doing that have not been integrous to who he knows he is. And so when you're not living up to your integrity of who you know you are, it tears you apart. And you literally, you can't find happiness in that place because you know in your brand book. So if you take a brand book, that's a great visual way of doing that, writing down like, this is who I know I can be. Here's where I'm not matching up to that. And having that laid out for you, that's powerful, man. But also I would add to that, having grace for yourself. And you did say that too, but like having grace of like, okay, this is who I really want to be, but listen, I'm not perfect. I'm going to screw up, letting yourself off the hook. And that's the biggest thing too, for at least for somebody like myself, who's I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I'm definitely, I can be really, really hard on myself.
Of course,
so giving myself that space. How do you give yourself that space?
Well, I realize today's like a chance and tomorrow's an opportunity, you know? So we have a chance to either make some movement today, a forward step. And if it doesn't happen, that's okay. Tomorrow's a fresh day. It's not guaranteed, but it is a fresh day to try and reverse it or do better. And what I wanted to mention about the brand book is like for the longest time, and not that I always thought of it that way. I didn't, you know, most people don't know or have like things that they stand for or like things that pull to them or talk to them, right? Like that makes them feel content and most of the time it is actions, you know, affirmations are a cool thing, but it's like, what are we doing though? Like daily. that are either in line with who we want to be, and having that person that we would admire, whether it's, we all have somebody that we watch or follow on social media or or in real life that you see and you're like, man, I really admire that person. They got it. They're cranking every day. You see them with some intent, some purpose, or they're just on a mission every day. And that's sort of an imaginary person that I have, and that I've built that sort of book around. And it's like, all right, these are probably the things that they would do. These are the things that they probably wouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
What they would do, what they wouldn't do, and then like doing the web between that of like, all right, well, what needs to be like avoided, removed, and what needs to be added, type of deal as far as habits go.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. I used to be in radio broadcasting, right? In radio, we had to have a listener target that we would talk to. So however they would decide, they'd pick a person and they'd just like put this face on the wall. And so when you talked, you had to pretend like you were talking to that person. So you talked in the right frame so that your audience was, you were connecting with your audience. And so what you're saying, it just made me think of that, is like, yeah, you need to be able to have the person that you're working towards so that you are doing the things that they do and not doing the things that they don't do. That's genius, man. So it's so simple. What a simple concept. If you take a couple of hours and map that out for yourself, that could be a real game changer for your life. And the other thing you mentioned earlier, I did want to go back to, because I think this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest factors in are you going to be able to change and sustain the change, is the people in your life, your relationships. So how did your relationships have to change for you to change your life?
It's like a simple saying that I've learned over time as well, is, if you want to be like them, do like them. So people that I were hanging around with, do I want their life? Do I want the trajectory that they're on? Do they have goals? Are they in a spot that I want to be? Or are they on the path that I want to be? And quite honestly, like, do I admire what they're doing? Mm-hmm. And not that that's a bad thing that I don't, right? Everybody has different goals, but is it aligned with who I want to be? Would I trade places with them, type of deal? And not that I don't have acquaintances or friends that aren't, working on self-development, self-improvement, or trying to level up, but I try and keep myself around people that are at least in that mentality or mindset, because it'll help fuel me. If you're hanging around people that really aren't ambitious or really just going through the motions, almost zombie-like, you're gonna eventually fall in line with them. Your energy or your frequency is what you frequently see. So like, if you're always seeing these low energy people and another Monday, another day in paradise, it's going to bleed off into you eventually.
Hold on, I gotta write this down, man, because that's so good. I love doing this podcast because I get so many good little nuggets. Your frequency is what you frequently see.
Yeah,
that's really good. What you frequently, I'm just writing that down.
Because if you always see somebody that's like a go-getter and has the energy, like, it bleeds into you. You're like, oh shit, okay, they're crushing. Let me do a little something. Let me get off my fat ass and go get that workout in. Let me eat a little bit. Let me not get that food and get this food. Let me invest or start investing into reading. I see them reading all the time. Whatever the case is.
Yeah, man. And I think the big part of that is, if you find people in your life that intimidate you in a good way, you need to get around them more. Now, if they're intimidating you in a bad way, of like, they're, bad people and you need to get away from them. But if it's people that, like, I feel kind of uncomfortable being around them because they're doing things that make me feel uncomfortable because I haven't like leveled up that much yet, then you like get around them more, spend more time with them, have that rub off on you, and you're gonna end up holding yourself accountable because they hold themselves accountable. I love that. So, and this is a bigger question, because people, I'll say this to people, like, you need to get around better people, and they'll say, well, how? Where do I meet them? How do I not be around the old people that I used to be around? Can you give some practical advice as to how you did that for yourself?
Yes. So it's twofold almost. If you mentioning earlier, you can't change people that are around you, like you can't make them change or like follow suit. But on the pursuit or the journey of developing better habits or self-development, self-improvement, is when you start to bring these habits or this lifestyle change in, it either brings people closer or it pushes them away. They either like see it as like, oh, he's changed or whatever, it'll be a an effect of whether it's going to pull people closer to you, and they're like, damn, I feel the same energy. I feel the same way. I want to start, I've seen you drop 5 pounds, or I've seen you starting to go to the gym, or I'm seeing you starting to do whatever, change your career, or take your career. So, these things, they attract. It's more so don't chase, attract. That's the biggest deal. Focusing on building you, the person who you want to be, right? And then that person attracts, typically, not to say it's attracting people that are levels above you, but it's going to attract the like-mindedness of people around you. They'll notice. They'll either take notice or hear about it or whatever. And it takes time too. Like, unless, another great way is social media nowadays, man. The more, and not to say you have to post, but that's the point. You're either consuming or you're creating on there. And like, if you're able to get yourself out there and show that, the process that you're going through of developing, that's going to help not only show people that are unsure of what to do, it's going to give them maybe some nudge to start taking action, but other people that are on that same path probably will start to notice as well and be like, damn, I want to connect with Austin, or I want to connect with Rob and see what he's about, see what he's working on, see where I can maybe fit in or bring some value type of deal.
Great advice, Austin. That is the truth. As you grow, it naturally starts to happen that people will grow away from you and you'll grow towards other people. It's really interesting how it happens that way. You don't even oftentimes have to do anything for it to actually work. Great conversation, man. I love this. I love what you're doing. So as we near the end here, I want to encourage people, check out gymflowcoaching.com, which is your website, but also that they can find you on Instagram. So they can follow you, Austin, on Instagram at APageMan, APageMan. I love what you're doing. Talk a little bit about, so in just your daily life and your profession, what do you do? How do you serve? What does that look like to work with you?
So big thing, and I have it here across my office, the gym, is a saying that I try and remember and remind myself, obviously, since it's on the walls, is I'm only as good as the example I set. So daily, I'm not just saying, hey, do this, do that. I'm doing it myself. Now, taking mine, I just had surgery the past 17th, and I just got cleared today to start exercising again. So that will be back into my routine as well, moving my body, exercising, taking care of it. But I practice what I preach, and then through my coaching, when I involve people in, I do a lot of group calls or these group things to where we talk about wins, losses between each other and how we can move forward or pull, like I was mentioning earlier, pulling characteristics from somebody that you admire, somebody that's got maybe the same type of life as you, but that's a little bit further ahead. And that's what we can do inside the group is, hey, so-and-so's got 3 kids just like me, or has a job, 12-hour shifts like me. They're able to do this and they figure it out this way. Oh, I'm going to add that to, or try and bring that into my life type of deal. So the biggest thing though is me leading by example, because I am only as good as the example I set.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the truth. And that integrity is everything. And people wonder, like, well, how do you become a great leader? Like, whenever you are integrous and you hold yourself to a standard and you do what you tell yourself you're going to do, you automatically build that integrity, which automatically makes you become a leader, because people want to be around somebody who lives up to their own standards. That's automatically an attracting point. So amazing stuff, amazing advice, amazing story, dude. I love it. I would encourage anybody, go to gymflowcoaching.com. If you're listening, that's GYMFLO coaching.com, and see the pictures of who you were in that accident and who you are today. It's night and day. Unbelievable to see.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. So this has been another amazing, true testimony of breakthrough. This has been the Unstuck Movement.